Hello and welcome to my imperfect knitting life. This is episode 27, I think. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back, and if you're new, this is a podcast where I talk about some knitting and then also a little about my mini commercial spinning mill which I run. I live in the North Island of New Zealand, and about 3 years ago I bought a mill and I've spent the last couple of years learning how to use it. So welcome back. What I'm going to talk about first is my knitting. So my knitting, well, completed knitting, because actually I'm having a little break at the moment. It's very hot and it's not conducive to knitting, at least in my opinion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go first of all to the Felix sweater. So that is the Felix pullover, and that's by Savory Knitting. And I love this pattern so much. It is a top-down knit. It's got some short row shaping at the top of the neck, and there's some beautiful eyelet increases, raglan eyelet increases. So let's get into that. I put them behind me. I'm not wearing them because it's too hot. I think the last time I did actually show you this and I did try it on, but what happened was at the hem I had done an Italian bind off and it was so tight. I just didn't like it. It wasn't comfortable, and so I spent my time. I unpicked that. It took me absolutely ages and I finished it, and since then I have worn this thing so many times. So the yarn is something that I've made in the mill, and it is I'm pretty sure it's a Colorwork that I dyed up of my own, and it is kettle dyed, and I call this Pounamu. And I think I explained that in a previous video, that Pounamu is actually greenstone in New Zealand, and it's a pretty prized gemstone. And so that's it, finished it, happy with it, worn it to death. You can see I've worn it, but now of course it's too warm, so that one's all finished. The next one I want to tell you about is the Alchemist pullover. And what made me want to do the Alchemist pullover is it's a lovely v-neck pattern. I don't know, there weren't actually many people that had it as projects, but it's quite a new top. It's by Wool & Pine, and I'm going to read their little description because it's actually so much better. I wouldn't remember all of it. So basically it says in the construction overview, it is knit using a seamless contiguous construction method for a set-in sleeve style fit. To me, the set-in sleeve style fit is actually what we used to call a saddle shoulder. The yoke is cast on, worked flat, increases shaping, creating shaping through the shoulders, v-neck and sleeves. You eventually end up joining it in the round once you get down and past the V. A lot of it's knit in the flat. And then, so it says here, you then split for the sleeves and join in the round. From there, the body is worked in the round to the hem, which is finished with an extra long split hem worked in 2x2 ribbing. So, where is that? Here it is. This is another one. I actually bought some Honui fibre, and I was told by them I actually can't produce yarn to sell, that somebody's got exclusive rights to do that, but I can sell fibre. So, but I wanted to have a go at it myself. So I dyed this up in the roving. And this is, it sort of looks kettle dyed, so if you look at their one, it's quite similar, really. And I just moved my yarn balls around so that I kind of got the stripes in fairly similar places. And I'm really very, very happy with it. The Honui fibre is actually really, really nice. And I'm very happy with the finished product, and I have worn it quite a few times. Only thing is, typical Dinny, imperfect knitting life, I found after I'd finished it and blocked it, a drop stitch. So I'm going to have to pick that up and basically just sew it into the back and get it done. I'm whizzing through all of this because it's been a little while since I did my last podcast, and so it's taking me mentally a little bit of time to get back into it, but hopefully you're not too bored. So let's go to the next thing that I've done. Love this one. So do you remember I did the Calypso pullover? I made a huge mistake in that I didn't change my cable needles, so that I could do the color work really well, because I think if they're on too short a needle you end up bunching things up, and so I ended up with this 3D design in the color work. And so I really paid attention. So this is the one I did. It's Yanis, and it's by it's by Isabel Kramer, and I love it. I really like the sort of gradients on there. I haven't actually matched that. So what I used in that was, I was trying to develop, or I was developing, a sock yarn, and I had to have about 3 goes at that. So this is the neutral color of the sock yarn. It's completely natural. And that sock yarn I made using a base of a Romney Corriedale, and then to that I added Lincoln, so that would give it a bit of strength. And then I also added about just over 10% silk. What I needed to do really to make it a good sock yarn was to actually do a higher twist. And so on the 3rd go I did increase the twist quite a bit. And so I've actually sent that off. That was a consignment somebody asked me to do for them. And they also wanted it because they want to dye it. It's an indie dyer. And so I had all of this left, and I thought, well, I'll use that. I dyed up one of the balls to do the color work so that it's all in the same. So this is my version. It's not quite as, rustic. I think I'd have to do a bit of dyeing on the body part. But you know what? I've literally got an entire barrel full of that. And I might do another little sample. So this is meant to be a sample, but I made it in the 4th size. I knit it to gauge on a needle that was, I think they wanted a size 4 needle, and I knit it on a 4.5, and that gave me gauge. So just going up that size definitely got me within gauge, in fact, on stitches and rows. So that's that one. Do you like it? Because I really like it. Why is my little that's it, I'm going to say the focusing thing's not working as well. So I did actually, if you actually look at the pattern, let me get it out here. If you look at the pattern, they used 3 colors, and I ended up just doing 1 variegated color. I kind of called this peacock because it's got the greens and blues of peacock feathers. And but I had actually dyed up a green to go in it. I really have got to start extending my color range, because green seems to be the color I'm attracted to at the moment. I'm sure there's some psychology, isn't there, about colors that you love and you pick. Same as you always notice with little kids, especially girls. They sort of start in their little pink phase, and they go to their purple phase, and then they start enjoying other colors after that. So I'm clearly in my green phase, and I need to extend that. So what else did knitting wise, the other thing that I did was I started another mosaic, night shift shawl mosaic, and this is again using all of the yarns that I have in my stash. I've still got a fair way to go, because the finished length is meant to be about 160, so that's going to be quite a lot more. So the night shift shawl is by Andrea Mowry, and obviously I think you can make a massive difference just by changing the colors that you choose. So again, because I produce a lot of earthy colors, so that's what I've ended up using. But I have seen it in a lovely pink and white at one of the creative fiber festivals, and that was lovely, really nice. So it's a very, very adaptable pattern. And I've also sent off, honestly, I think 4 or 5 little kits around the world, and people just wanted me to pick out some colors for them. So that was a little bit of fun. Although now, of course, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I do put things together for people, then I feel nervous that maybe they're not going to like it when they get it or whatever, because I kind of know how I'm going to mix and match the colors. And so maybe that's a little bit more, something I'm a little bit more comfortable with. Anyway, so knit wise, I think, oh no, one more. This is actually my one work in progress. I need to move it along a bit, but again, it's showcasing some of my yarn, which is a Gotland. I call this Curious Crimson, but is that actually a crimson color? You guys know that I struggle with names, but I'm going to get better. And that's a Gotland Corriedale blend. And the Gotland was, well, that one I think was actually my own sheep. And that's a lovely worsted weight yarn. I would knit that on a 4.5 to maximum 5.5 millimeter needle. And in fact, what size have I knitted this on? So this is the, of course, trusty Ranunculus, and it's probably the first time I've actually knit it without any errors in the pattern. So that's going to be lovely. I just have to make my mind up whether or not, or how long I want the sleeves. I haven't made my mind up yet, but the needle size I knitted it on was a 6 millimeter, and so far this is just over 200 grams. So I'm pretty sure I could do a short sleeve version or a what I call a half sleeve version on 300, but I might go all the way and do a long sleeve version for the winter, because it is a very light fabric, and I suppose that's the advantage of knitting on a bigger needle. So that really is all the knitting I want to show you today. I'm sorry I don't go into heaps of detail about construction, because I kind of, once I've done it, move past it, and I'm quite impressed when people go into, you know, like if you look at fruity knitting, the kind of detail that people go into about their knit. Unfortunately for me, I tend to fast forward some of those bits because the detail doesn't actually mean a lot to me. Anyway, that's the knitting done, and I'm going to talk about the mill quite a bit, because it's the end of the year and I need to really reflect, or I want to reflect on how much I've learnt, things that have happened, and where the mill's going next year. So in terms of the mill, I did have periods where I didn't go into the mill very much, and that was because a lot was going on in life. So I did tell you about Roger's heart attack, and just to give you an update, he's doing really well. He went back to work, and I think, honestly, emotionally, I think that was, for him, a really positive thing, from the perspective of just knowing how appreciated he is. So yeah, but I think it took him quite a while to become more confident to get back to some of the things that he was doing. So I was tired after that. I actually got sick a couple of times, and I just think it was because my immune system was down. In fact, I've been probably unwell more times in this last year than I have in the previous decade. Yeah, and that was in a few months. And then my sister went on to somehow hit her head, and she got the subdural hemorrhage. So we were dealing with that for a while. She's really so well now and on the mend and back to work as well. And in that time, we moved my mum into the house, and then when Millie was in hospital, we moved her into the house. So we've gone from being a 2-people household up to, well, actually, we now have 5 people in the house, because Patrick, my son that lives in America, is back for a few months. And I think he's going to try and do a lot more moving, you know, several months there, several months here. And he's working in the mill with me, and we've got plans for 2026. And at some point, I'd love you to meet him, if I can just persuade him to come and have a little chat for part of the podcast. That would be amazing. So yeah, I haven't updated the web shop for quite some time. It's really embarrassing. I have got buckets and buckets of product that I need to just finish labeling and put up, and that hopefully, I need to turn this off because it keeps beeping and doing things. Sorry. Okay, so that's all. And yeah, I'm going to show you just some of the colours and things that I've done recently. I can't even remember if I've showed them on previous podcasts. So remember, I have my Mill-Made product, and that's that. This is exactly the same base in terms of it's Scotland and Corriedale, but that is sort of peachy. Can you please? There must be a button I've forgotten. Maybe I need to move my face out of the way. I might have face finder. That's a lovely peachy colour of that. So with that, we've got this sort of grey colour, and then well, that's a normal. And this one I absolutely love. It's a lovely rust colour. I have showed you other colours before, so there was a beautiful blue. Let me grab it. Oh, here we go. Here's a nice blue. I think they're awesome colours. Very happy with those. So some are muted. So this was dyed after it was spun. This was dyed in the fleece and then blended on the machines. This was dyed in the fleece and blended as well on the pin drafter actually. That was dyed in the fleece. This is a natural colour over there, beautiful natural grey. And then these are some of the shed spuns. Super bouncy. It's a Corriedale. Shed spun is basically where I've bought roving, I've dyed it. I dyed it a variety of ways, but usually I do it in pans and then I pop it into an oven and just slow roast. And so that was that one. I've got some more of those. There's a pink. These go nicely together. I'm actually I've started a tarantella in this yarn, and it looks really good. I'll show you that next time because I'm just in the process of, would literally have not much to show you on that, so it wasn't really worth it. There's a beautiful Pacific Ocean blue, and those three actually go nicely together. You know, if you're thinking of doing something in mosaic like pressed flowers or Andrea Mowry's night shift shawl, those would be goodies. And there's this one as well, so they all sort of go together. That's got a lot of green and a bit of purple, so I've sold a few of those even though they're not labeled. People come to the mill. That's another thing that's actually happened, is I've had quite a few people come and visit the mill, so much so, and I'm always surprised at how much they enjoy it. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start having some open days for the mill, and I'll do that starting probably either the end of January or the beginning of February. So Patrick will give me a hand with that. And then behind me you can see I've got quite a bit of product, so I'm going to get this little shop all set up nicely here. And I've bought a whole load of fleece, which I need to get ready and start putting through the mill, because there seems to be like natural seasons of what you do in the mill, and when you're doing each little batch yourself, obviously you've got to wash it and dry it, and these hot days are perfect for that, because you can get, well, in a day I could probably get 7 to 10 kilos washed and out to dry, but then I need to keep that because the machines don't work so well in this sort of heat and lower humidity, and so those days, those things are better kept for slightly wet days. Having said that, I do have a little humidifier in the mill, and the sheep fleece goes through a lot easier than alpaca. Alpaca is literally like human hair in a balloon. You get so much static that it just wants to start breaking, attaching to the machine. It's a nightmare really. And Patrick's been looking at anti-static bars, and they're really surprisingly expensive. So I don't know what they cost overseas, but in New Zealand a small one is like, I think $2,000 to $3,000, and that's quite a bit big bit out of my budget for the year. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to be doing that. So I'm going to have lots of different types of fibre through the mill this year. I'm going to start a fibre club, and I'm going to put them in little boxes, give you a little story about where the fibres come from. And I'm going to have mill-made fibre, and I'm also going to offer shed-spun fibres. But what I want to do is get, obviously, I'm not doing them natural colours. I'm going to dye them, the ones in the fleece. I'm going to dye them in the fleece, but I'm going to get them so that they do kind of complement each other. Tell you a little story about the little flock that it's come from, and do them in 100-gram batches. I don't know if people want more than 100 grams, but yeah, so I'm going to start that. Probably that's going to be ready by April, because in New Zealand, April's our autumn, and it will be lovely just to have stuff to spin through the winter. And we'll just see how that goes, because it's going to be limited numbers, probably 30 to 40 boxes a month, and just see how it goes, and maybe over time be able to increase that. We'll see. What else I've been doing some commission carding in the mill. I've been doing some commission spinning. That is very limited, because really it's as much time and effort as if I wanted to put it up for sale, but it's not. It's a lot less money really, and even though I like to do it as a community thing, I also have to have a viable business in some way or the other. Yeah, so a little bit of commission carding, commission spinning. I do want to show you this yarn here. It's a beautiful chocolate color. So this is commission carding that I've spinning that I've done for somebody, and it is ended up being 50% alpaca and 50% Romney, and that was because alpaca is just crazy on its own, and I'm just not sure if that's because it's the winter or the type of alpaca that it was, because it was very different to the one I did for this lady before. So it is a nice sort of chunky-ish, I would call that an Aran weight, and I would knit that on a 5.5 needle probably. And it's bloomed, so it's as bouncy as it's going to get. And I said to my one friend, because the day she came, poor thing, I had worked so hard, and you're trying not to waste stuff because it's somebody else's precious beloved alpaca. And at the end of it, I was quite frazzled, and I said, look at this, it's so lovely. I said, but if I had to name that, I would call it Blood, Sweat and Tears, or Never Again. But I really hope that the lady that commissioned this is going to be happy with it. I did get some lovely feedback actually from the last few jobs that I've done, and also one of the lots of people that came to visit the mill a couple of months ago, she said, oh, I got some of your fleece that you did, and it just spins up so beautifully. I'm not sure if it's because it's clean. I think a lot of it is, when you get your stuff carded, all of those fibers are just not aligned. But if I put it through the pin drafter, it's more money, but actually it really preps it a lot more for spinning. So it's aligning the fibers, and it is different to buy a commercial roving because it's a lot looser, and therefore it actually does sort of draw a lot more easily when you're doing hand spinning. So that's why I feel like the Fibre Club, that's going to be one of the attractions. Is it's going to be lovely. Well, my plan is it's going to be lovely to spin with, and well, time will tell. So with the Yarn Club, what I'm going to do is, when you sign on, basically it's going to be a continuous thing until you decide you want to take yourself off it. So you can suspend it if you can't afford it for a while, or you can stop. But once those spaces are filled up, then there won't actually be space for you to come back on until somebody else takes themselves off. So yes, you don't have to buy 3 months or 6 months. We might do a little deal for 3-month people, and it might also be, you know, because all the prices in there are going to be for local postage. So if people want me to send overseas, it might actually pay to keep 3 months worth and then work out the postage price for 3 batches and do that 4 times a year. So it's definitely stuff that I'm open to suggestion if people want to message me and ask me about it, if they want to be added to the club and they're not a local. So yeah, so that's some of the mill stuff. Something that I really don't like sort of skiting too much about stuff, but I was super proud because I actually got to be asked to do an interview. Oops, upside down, ninny. I got asked to do a little interview for Our Place magazine, and they did some really super photographs and just talked to me about the mill. And that was, well, it was embarrassing to a degree, but it was also super special. And I've actually contacted the photographer and asked her if I could buy some of the pictures, and she said yes. So I will be picking some of those and popping them on the website. So that was a really positive thing that happened in 2025 for the mill. Another thing is I've been approached by, well, 2 places. So one is a quite famous, and I'll tell you more when it's all finalized, but it's a tourist destination, and they have a visitor's shop, and they've asked if they can stock some of my yarn in there. And then the other one is actually an art gallery in the South Island, and they've asked if they can stock my yarn in there as well. So those things hopefully will be progressing in the not too distant future. What else? I'm trying to think what else. I don't really know that I want to talk too much more, because I just feel like let's get this out. I'm going to put some videos at the end of this and some pictures like I normally do. Patrick's going to be helping me with the social media and getting some of that done, because I've kind of lost the momentum with all the personal stuff that's been going on. I've really lost the momentum. In fact, I struggled to get onto social media to put anything up. But I'm going to get my mojo back. 2026 is get your mojo back year, and don't isolate yourself, because I feel like I have actually isolated myself a little bit, and share a bit more. So thank you. So 2026 is hopefully going to be the year where I get on top of the social media stuff, and I can update you on a weekly basis if you start following my Instagram, Little Mill Over the Hill, on Instagram. I'm not going to be putting it as much on my Dinny Bee, because I'm trying to keep that as a more personal. So if you are following me on Dinny Bee, if you could follow me on Little Mill Over the Hill, that'd be amazing. And I will start sharing a little bit more on there on a weekly basis. We'll be doing some shorts. Patrick says, let's do some shorts on YouTube, Mum. And we'll start doing that. So yeah, listen, I hope you've had a good Christmas. Looking forward to 2026. Looking forward to being a little bit more present, and so grateful that you have come along even today. Thank you so much. You take care, and we'll catch up sometime. Thank you. Bye.